Okay, parents, how are you guys doing? This is my back to school night video. The voice you are hearing hovering over the screen is Mr. Nolan. It is so nice to meet you, and I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday night. I will obviously you seem to have gotten a message that I would like you to watch this beforehand. If you watch the classroom policies video, a couple of things are going to be repetitive here, but I just wanted to make sure that this was out there for you guys. All right. This is World History 1 at Patriot High School. I'm Mr. Nolan, and Miss Tate will also be helping with some of my classes. Couple of ways to get in touch with me. That is my Twitter handle that is for my history class only. And this is my email address. This is the best way to go ahead and get a hold of me on a daily basis. So if you have questions, if you have concerns, if you have something you need to address, yes, calling the school, you will eventually get to me, but it's going to take them a little while. Fastest way to get a hold of me is to get to my email. I'm pretty good about checking it routinely during class, during moments when kids are doing things. Moving on. Devices. There will be times when your students will be asked to bring devices in, or they will be allowed to use them, whether that's a tablet, a cell phone, an iPad, or some of them could even use a laptop for all I care. There will be times when we are using them in class, so they're not lying to you when they say that occasionally they will be used. When they are being used, I will have let them know well in advance so they know to have them in. I will probably have even put it on the Fusion calendar that it's a device day. So I will only want the devices out during those prescribed times. Now, I do have a place in my classroom where students can store devices if they can't handle the temptation of having them in their hands. If they're being used at a time when they're not supposed to be, I will confiscate them and turn them into Mr. Lavely per Patriot High School policy. But there will be times when we are allowed to use them. Supplies. This is real quick. Your kids should have this already. I'm not here to police their I'm not here to police their organization skills. I just need two sections, one for them to store unit packets, which they'll get 12 of this year, and then the second one for graded assessments that have been returned to them. So 3-ring binder, I don't care where, how it works. Folders are fine too, just that they have places to keep those things. They're going to need a writing utensil every day. I have some in case it's a dire emergency. My classroom is also conveniently located near the Patriot High School pencil machine. Colored pencils can be helpful on math days. And then this is the biggie here. This is the biggie. They need access to School Fusion and to YouTube. Whether it's computer, device, going to a library, some way, shape, or form, your son or daughter is going to need to be able to get onto YouTube. Just like you are right now looking at this video. Grading this year is 70% summative 1, 20% summative 2, 10% formative. All right, let me briefly explain this to you. Formative assessments are part of the learning process, so homework, classwork, small little daily assignments. Part of the process, it's called formative because it's helping the students form their knowledge or form a skill. I never expect students to do particularly well on formative assessments because it's new material or it's a new skill. It's the first time or so that they're practicing it. The reason it's graded is because they need feedback so that they understand what they are doing and how to improve. So I try to go out of my way to make sure formative counts as little as possible. And I will also, when a student takes a summative assessment, if they have improved on the summative, they do better than they did on the formative assessment, I will go back and adjust the formative assessment grade to match. So say on standard 2C, your child got a 60% on the formative assessment. And then when he takes the summative or she takes the summative assessment, they get a 90. I'm going to go back and change that 60 to a 90 to match. So formative is not going to count for much. Now, the summative categories are summaries. They're supposed to be after the student has learned the material. This is when they're supposed to know it and show it off. All right, and the two summatives are broken down into two categories. The summative 2, which is 20% of the grade for each quarter, is going to be a single quarter assessment. The first 3 quarters, it will probably be a 60-question multiple choice test meant to mirror or prepare them for sitting for an SOL in May. The 4th quarter one will likely be project-based. The summative 1 assessments, on the other hand, are going to be smaller. These are what you would have thought of in previous years as quizzes. They're going to be 2 to 3 standards, so maybe 10 to 15 multiple choice questions or a couple paragraph IDs. Or depending upon how two standards are, it just might be to write an essay outline. Um, Maps will show up in these and vocabulary. All right. So summative one assessments are going to be smaller. I have found in my last couple of years teaching freshmen, that giving them big giant tests where you get 3 tests a quarter and each of those tests is 20% and 60% of your grade is decided in 3 sittings. I found that that's not necessarily fair. It puts a lot of undue stress on them. It makes it very hard for them to retake. And then especially in history, where some of the times the material that we have grouped together, especially in the first part of this class, is very, very, very large. Like the Roman Empire spans 1,000 years of history because we throw Christianity with it. A test on the Roman Empire, that's a lot of material to prepare for, whereas we could break it up into, 2 or 3 chunks. The Roman Republic, the Civil Wars, so the Julius Caesars and the Augustus Caesars could be a second part. And then the third part focusing on the Roman peace, so the first 200 years of the empire. And then the fourth part focusing on the downfall and the rise of Christianity. I found that breaking it up makes it easier for the students to study and prepare, and it creates less anxiety, which 2 months from now, you're going to want your kids to have less anxiety. So this is a little different than you guys have seen in the past, but this is how we're going to do it this year. Now, retakes are going to be for those summative one assessments only, so that's 70% of the grade that they get to retake. That one at the end of the quarter, we're going to take 2 or 3 days to review before it, so they're going to have plenty of time. They should knock it out of the park. It's meant to mimic the SOL, which is generally a pretty easy test. They should do well on it. Now, there are going to be a couple of things that they have to know about these retakes. They're available for summative one assessments. They don't have to retake the entire assessment. So if there were 3 standards assessed on an assessment, and they got 2 of them they did very well on, and the third they did very poorly on, they only need to retake the third. They don't need to redo the whole thing. Now, to earn a retake, I've got a couple of things. There will be a floating deadline. I will, anytime I hand out an assessment, hand it back graded, I will place on Fusion, and I will tell your children immediately when the deadline is for that retake. It will be 10 days to 2 weeks, 10 to 14 days. I don't want them to fall behind trying to retake something from 2 or 3 months ago, because that snowballs and gets out of control really, really fast. So we have a deadline, about 2 weeks to get a retake done. To earn a retake, your child's going to have to complete an error analysis form. Okay, these will be found on Fusion. I will go over with them in detail how to find them and complete them. But essentially, it's like corrections. They're going to have to correct their mistakes. If it's a multiple choice question, I'm going to want them to tell me where they found the new answer. Did they look it up on Wikipedia? Did they find it in a textbook? Did they find it, in their unit packets? If it's an essay, we're going to rework it. They're going to work back through it. If it's an identification, they're going to answer some questions. You're going to have to sign, I'm going to come back to the other one here in a second, you're going to have to sign the original assessment, and then they may not complete them on the same day. I would like them to have a moment of self-acknowledgement. And then this is the big one that's different from me this year, that they have to be attentive to. All assignments prior to a summative assessment have to be completed on the day the assessment is taken to be eligible for a retake. Your child has not stayed up with their assignments, and in this case their assignments are going to be their notes. If your child has not stayed up with their notes when they sit down to take the summative assessment, they're already ineligible for a retake. I need them to stay up to date. I need them to stay on track with the notes. They have almost no chance of succeeding on a summative assessment if the notes have not been completed yet when they sit down to take it. So they have to be up to date. I have emphasized this to them. I'm going to continue to emphasize it for the next couple of days. All right, moving on. Now this one you may have heard mentioned, and I might not be the only class of your child that's doing this. My class is going to be taught as a flipped classroom. So very much like you are doing right now, where you are getting the bulk of the material at home, your child will not have notes in class. Now the first couple of weeks, I'm going to break them into it. We are going to show them how to use the videos. We're actually going to watch the videos in class to get them used to it. But by the end of this month, all notes are going to be done at home. All I'm going to ask for them to do for homework is going to be these notes. I'm not going to send essay outlines home. I'm not going to send a textbook home unless you're dying to have one. If you want one, say so, and I'll get one checked out to your kids. I have plenty. I'm trying to simplify it. All I'm going to want them to do is to watch these notes. The reason we do this is the notes are one directional. It's just me talking. That's a giant waste of class time. Okay? They can do that on their own, just like right now. I'm throwing information at you. This is one directional. This is taking longer than the 13 minutes that we're going to have on back to school night to be together. So I'm throwing all this at you now so I can spend the 13 minutes we have together interacting. It's very much exactly how the class is going to be taught. All the one-directional stuff, all the me putting notes on the board and then writing it down, I'm going to take and we're going to put it home. The stuff that we're going to be in class is the interactive stuff, the writing practice, helping them develop their skills with writing with history, writing in history. Help them work with primary documents, learning how to analyze a primary document, read a source, figure out how to apply it. This is going to make class more fun. It's also going to allow them to learn more skills as a historian, which is a big point of emphasis in Prince William County right now. That is why we are flipping the classroom. And I'm pointing this out to you guys. It's absolutely imperative that the students watch the videos. This is also building off of what I said earlier about the retake. They have to stay on top of it. These videos are going to be shorter than the one you're watching right now. They're primarily going to be between 7 and 12 minutes long. They're not going to be long. If you or your child do not have access to the videos, or you're going to restrict their access for some reason, that's none of my business, but please contact me and we will come up with a workaround for them. We'll come up with another way to make this work. I have to know. Homework is going to be assigned most nights. It's going to be these notes videos. As part of Remind 101, I'm going to send them reminders of what videos they need to have watched. So that is the homework, all right? Extra help, my office hours are Thursdays from 2:15 to 3 p.m. Flex 3 and 6. You must sign up on the clipboard for extra help. It's actually going to be the back wall of my classroom. The students know this. I need to know ahead of time who's coming. I want them to start becoming responsible with their time and planning ahead, beginning with the end in mind, or by appointments. Okay, if those times don't work, they can come talk to me and we will figure something out. I'm around the school quite a bit. I do many things for the school, so I'm here often. Makeup work, students need to try and stay caught up as much as possible. I understand they get sick. I understand there are family issues. I understand that sometimes we have to go on vacation. I get it. The biggest thing is that we keep moving. And the longer the student is out, the more makeup work they have because we keep moving. So as much as you can, if your son or daughter is out, if it's at all possible for them to continue moving forward, they need to try to do so. It will minimize the makeup process. I've seen students who missed 3 days with the flu and it took them 3 weeks to get caught back up. Now that was an extreme case because of the time that they were sick was at the end of a quarter, but it still happens. Please try and help them get caught up and stay caught up as much as possible. I'll point you to this one here at the bottom. I generally will not leave zeros in the grade book because I want every one of my students to complete every assessment and assignment. That's a Patriot policy. I will put a 0 in the grade book as a placeholder if it's been a week and someone has not made something up yet. So if they're sick and they missed the daily check, it's been a week and it hasn't been there, I'm going to put the 0 in there as a placeholder just to grab your attention, okay? On Twitter, I will tweet reminders. J. Nolan History PHS is my history account. I will also do Remind 101s, which go out between 4:30 or around 4:30 usually. If you need to register for this, do so on Fusion. It's the best way to get information. I'll be sending reminders about assessments and what videos students are supposed to be watching. And since you've watched this video, you're going to be ready for back to school night. Because when you guys walk in, I'm giving you a quiz on it. So thanks for your time, and I look forward to meeting you Wednesday night.